Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome to another video. This time I'm gonna be reviewing A24's Warfare. I'm reviewing it, almost a month late considering it released on April 11th, but that's okay. I have had a sinus infection for like the last month, so I've not been able to do as many videos as I wanted to do, but I felt pretty good today. But let's get into it. So first off, right off the bat, this movie, Warfare by A24, is insane. It is simply insane. It's directed by Alex Garland and also Ray Mendoza, who makes his directorial debut in this movie, who is also an ex-veteran. So he helped direct this movie with Alex Garland. This movie comes in at about 90 minutes. Very short, but a very quality movie, okay? So let's just get into this, right? Why is this movie so insane to me? Well, this movie is about a platoon of Navy SEALs, American Navy SEALs, and this is actually based on a real battle, a real event that happened, that took place in Iraq. It's not a part of a major war per se, like it's not a major conflict that happens in history, but it's a battle that did happen, and I'll talk more about that later. So this movie starts out with them actually all goofing around and dancing around to this music video, like a techno song, I think called Call on Me, I think Call on Me. It's pretty much the only like happy part of this movie at all, okay? So in the middle of the night, these American Navy SEALs, they take over just this house, this random person living in Iraq, Ramadi, Iraq's house, in the middle of the night. They have their guns pointed at this family, and they tell them, just be quiet, just be quiet. They take over this house because I guess it's just the best point that they had to conduct surveillance. And that's what this is. They're doing a surveillance mission. They're basically spend probably, I'd say, 20-30 minutes of this movie at the start just on surveillance. It's shot in real time, so we're just watching these guys. They're just surveying the area for any suspicious activity. They're surveying to see if there's anybody that looks like they could be an insurgent, that looks like they could be a threat, and they're basically trying to do this, of course, without being caught, right? And this movie is it starts slow at first, almost nothing happens. And it's very purposeful because Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland, so they made this movie for Elliot Miller. Elliot Miller was a real American Navy SEAL. He's played by Cosmo Jarvis in this movie. But basically, Elliot Miller did not remember the events that happened from this battle in real life. And he would reach out to his fellow soldiers and ask them to fill in gaps about what happened. He just couldn't remember, probably because this was a highly traumatizing thing that happened in his life. And so this movie was made to help to help Elliot Miller remember what happened. This movie is made purely off the memories of the actual American Navy SEALs that were in this battle, and it shows. This movie feels super realistic, almost so realistic that it gets uncomfortable at times. So really, I'm sitting in the theater and I'm like, man, nothing has really happened. There's a lot of military jargon in the movie that kind of goes over my head, but I get the gist. They're taking descriptions of anybody that might pose a threat or kind of look suspicious, right? Out of nowhere, right? Because for like 25 minutes, you're just sitting there and you're just watching one of the snipers. He's just looking out the window. He's looking. And we kind of see some of the other Navy SEALs kind of goofing off with each other here and there. A grenade gets thrown through the window. The way it happens, it's just so matter of fact. It just happens. Like there's no huge build up to the grenade being thrown. You don't see the person that throws it. It just pops in through their window, and they're like, "Oh my, grenade!" And they turn over, and it goes off, right? So this is where After this happens, this is where this movie is just crazy. They realize very quickly this is no longer a surveillance mission. This is a mission of survival. And so really the last hour of this movie is just them trying to survive. And I loved this movie because it just was really well done. Its budget only came in at about $20 million. It's a low budget movie, but it's very quality. So they're trying to now basically get out of this house. But it's not so easy. They're surrounded by these insurgents that are, trying to kill them. So what happens essentially is they're like, all right, we got to call for backup. And again, there's a lot of military jargon in this movie, but they call for something called a Bradley, which I guess is like a tank. It's sort of like a rescue tank that comes to get them in their platoon and then get them to a more safe location. So they call for help, right? So once the Bradley gets there, again, they can't just walk out because they don't even know where the insurgents are. And that was another thing. You see bullets flying through the walls and they're like, they don't know where it's coming from. They're just like shooting. They don't know where the insurgents are. It's insane. So what happens is that they go out and they do this thing where they line up and they all have a hand on each other's back. The idea is I think they called it form a stack. And they do this, they throw a smoke grenade out to try and cover them. Well, as soon as they go and make contact with this tank, this Bradley that pulls up right next to the door, an IED goes off, it explodes, and this was like one of the first scenes in the movie where I'm like, what is going on? The way that they shot this was ridiculous. So they show the soldiers waking up because they're dazed, they're confused, they just got hit by an explosion. And the sound design is amazing. Like, their ears are ringing, there's smoke everywhere, you can't see anything, there's just smoke. The way they did it, it sounds like they can vaguely like hear someone like screaming. Actually, so the guy that plays Elliot Miller, Cosmo Jarvis, I believe it was his character, he wakes up and is just screaming. Oh no, I'm sorry. I think it actually might have been Joseph Quinn's character who plays Sam, and I'll talk a little bit more about the cast members later. He wakes up after this explosion. At first, he doesn't know what's going on, still dazed, and he just starts screaming his head off because part of his leg has been, and just his body in general, has been hit by this explosion. The acting is crazy, man. When I tell you, I heard the most blood-curdling screams I've ever heard in a movie ever. Like, you would think a human being was being tortured. It's so uncomfortable, man. It's so uncomfortable. Once everyone gathers their bearings, they pull the injured back into the house. And again, oh my God. Okay, if you can't handle, like, gruesome stuff, this is where you might want to, like, fast forward. I forgot to mention that they had these Iraqi interpreters with them that were also kind of like allies. They sent them out first to make sure that it was safe, but tried to tell them like, oh, it's okay, we just need you to go check. One of them, I believe, it gets the brunt of the IED. His guts are spilling out of his stomach. Oh my God, there's blood everywhere. And dude, when I tell you how real this looks, I wanted to look away. You've got one of the soldiers screaming bloody murder. You got one guy over here who has his guts spilled all over. And as a matter of fact, his body got blown in half. He got blown in half, and his guts are spilling out everywhere onto the floor. You see the look now of some of the soldiers that have gotten their bearings that are looking around like, what? Like, they're scared, and they're now going through like this trauma in real time, and it's ridiculous. One of the soldiers, I can't remember if it's Elliot Miller or Sam. I thought they're dead. I thought they were dead. No, it was Elliot Miller. So Elliot Miller, I think it looks like he's dead. Another soldier goes on to check on him. His eyes are not open, but he grabs him and lifts him, pulls him back into the house. His ankle is partly like blown off, or it got completely twisted around. It just looked like it was sort of flopping, almost flopping like a doll. And he's trying to pull him around the corner, and his ankle is stuck. That's how much it's detached itself. Oh my god, bro. Remembering this movie is just. I can handle violence and brutality, but this was a gruesome movie, man. He finally gets him back in. Well, eventually, he opens his eyes. Turns out he is alive. Once he realizes that part of his arm and his leg have been partially blown up, he starts screaming in pain. You now have Elliot Miller and you have Sam, played by Joseph Quinn. I can't understate how terrifying it was to hear these guys scream for their lives. And all of the soldiers they've also been hit by this IED. So they're kind of standing around like stunned, trying to figure out what's the next move. What are we going to do? The first rescue Bradley that they called just blew up. They've still got insurgents surrounding them. It's ridiculous. So they decide, okay, well, we got to get out of here. So they call for a second Bradley. So they're on the radio and they're like, hey, we need another Bradley. And they radio back like, that's a negative. And they're looking around each other like, what do you mean? He said, we need to get the okay from headquarters because the first Bradley blew up from that IED. They didn't want to send a second one because it was so dangerous. So one of them gets on the radio and fakes being, again, sorry, I don't know the exact military jargon, but he pretends to be headquarters. He pretends to be the captain, and he gives the order, hey, no, we need another Bradley now. I give you the okay. So they send one. They're like, we're about 6 minutes out. This was the longest 6 minutes of my entire life, man. Like, for 6 minutes, they are trying to stay alive. Some of the soldiers have now tried to start applying first aid the best that they can, but they're also still messed up from this. They do this thing where they had to put a tourniquet on Sam, Joseph Quinn's character. He's begging them not to because he's in so much pain. And oh my god, I don't know why they did this, but one of the soldiers has to stick his fingers inside of the leg wound of Joseph Quinn. He lets out the most horrific yell, the most nightmare fuel scream I've ever heard. And I need to tell you this. There's no soundtrack in this film. There's no soundtrack. All you hear is explosions and screaming and begging. This movie is ridiculous, and the movie wants it to be as realistic as possible, which I think they did a phenomenal job doing. It feels like you're there. And I do want to say, if you're wanting to see this movie, it feels more like an experience. Like you're meant to almost feel that you are a fly on the wall watching all of this happen, watching what is, possibly the worst day of these Navy SEALs' lives in real time. And I mean, there's some other things in the movie that are interesting. They do this thing where they call in a show of force, where a fighter jet will swoop in and it kind of goes and it flies through the street of where they're at. And the sound design of it is crazy, man. It is crazy. They call in a show of force like 3 times just to try and show the insurgents, like, hey, we are willing to, call in air support if we need to. But realistically, I don't think they could have, because there's civilians in this area that just live in Iraq, but there's also insurgents there, so they can't just drop bombs on everybody. You know what I mean? You also have the American Navy SEALs that are there, so you can't just do that. But they're doing a show of force to show, hey, we still have intent to use force if we need to. So eventually, they actually reunite with another platoon, the second platoon that comes in, and they work together to get out of the house. Joseph Quinn's character, who is like the captain of the platoon. Oh no, see, I'm so sorry. I'm getting my members messed up. Will Poulter Will Poulter, who is also like an upcoming uh, actor, in my opinion, he's starting to get some big roles, like Adam Warlock. But anyway, he plays Eric, who is a captain, and he admits to the Platoon 2 captain, hey man, you need to take over this operation because I'm not in my right mind. He says, I'm effed up. I can't do this. He's not as physically hurt as the other soldiers, but he's still just, he's messed up, man. Everything again, gunshots everywhere, smoke, blood. I forgot to tell you, when the second Bradley's coming, they ask, what is your location? He can't give the proper location because he's just, again, they're living this trauma in real time. And he says, you know what? Look for the blood and smoke. That's where we are. That quote right there, I think sticks with me from this film, man. Absolutely ridiculous. And the movie basically ends where they are able to get the second Bradley there safely. This one does not get hit by an IED. They load everybody up, and the last shot of the movie is seeing all of them, the soldiers that have survived, in the back of this tank, all just looking so dejected, and like they just went through the worst the worst day that they've ever experienced. And then the movie just ends, and then the post-credit scene is showing the cast members next to the actual real American Navy SEALs that were in the real 2006 battle. Now, this movie, to me, is a very niche type of movie because you made a film that I think even Ray Mendoza himself said it's really a film made for veterans. It was made for the real Elliot Miller because he couldn't remember the events that even happened in this battle. It was made for him to help him remember what happened as sort of a healing process. And that's also why they said that they didn't dumb down the military jargon throughout the movie, because it wasn't meant to be for like me. It was meant to be for someone that could probably better relate to something like that. Another thing I wanted to say is I have a quote here by Ray Mendoza. He says, "The most accurate depiction of combat to date." I agree with that. This movie isn't Hollywooded up. This movie doesn't position the American soldiers as good and the Iraqi insurgents as bad. There's not really protagonists and antagonists. There's just war. Everything from the American Navy SEALs taking over a household of a family of a wife and husband and their children and pointing guns at them, telling them to, cooperate and we won't hurt you. From both sides just trying to do, I guess do what they think, what they've been ordered to do. This movie doesn't really involve any politics. The movie doesn't even tell you why they are there. I had to do research after the fact to figure out more about why they were there and what this battle was about. And again, like I said, I can't use the word realistic enough. There was a couple of scenes I jumped because of how loud the explosions were, man, and how loud the screaming of the soldiers that have been part of their body parts have been blown up were. Overall, I would give this movie probably a 8.5 out of 10. Real quick, I do see that IGN gave this movie an 8 out of 10. IMDb gave it a 7.7 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 92%. Yeah. I give it an 8.5 out of 10 because I think this is the first time I've seen a movie like this. If I had to describe this movie in one word, I would use the word intense. Very, very intense, like edge of your seat type of thing. There's a number of scenes where the camera will linger on a soldier long enough that I've been trained from other movies that it seems like that character is about to get shot or that character is about to get blown up, but then they don't. It's this very uncomfortable feeling of like, what's gonna happen next? Who's gonna get shot next? Is there gonna be another explosion? Where are they being shot at from? Very uncomfortable. I can't use that word enough. A24's Warfare is a very quality movie for only coming in at a budget of $20 million. I did look up that so far in the box office, Warfare has made around $28 million back. Now, that isn't great financially as far as the revenue that they're making. And I understand that because, again, it's more of a niche movie, in my opinion. Like, you're not going to hear, like, super cool, heroic music in the background. That's not what this is, man. This is just, again, like Ray Mendoza is quoted as saying, the most accurate depiction of combat. And it's terrifying, man. There's a lot of comments from people about, well, is this an anti-war movie? Is this a war recruitment movie? What is this? I think from everything I've read from the directors and just from seeing it myself, I don't even know if it was directly an anti-war movie, but it leans more towards being an anti-war movie just because I'm like, nobody by the end of this wins. The American Navy SEALs don't win. The insurgents don't win. Nobody won. The family whose home got taken over in the middle of the night didn't win. Everyone left that situation worse than when it started, man. Everyone left that situation more traumatized than when they began their day. And, you know, this is one of those films, man, that I was like, should I review this? Because I don't know if I can put it into proper words how crazy this movie is. I very much recommend seeing it if you're okay with, you know, some gruesome, fairly bloody scenes, and some scenes that are borderline uncomfortable. I'll say this. Do I think Warfare is going to win any awards? I would lean towards no. I lean towards no because, again, it's only made $8 million over its budget so far. The sound design is out of this world. Maybe it could win an award for that. The acting is great, and that's another thing I forgot to do was actually tell you guys some of the cast members. I'll run through that real quick. The acting in this movie is phenomenal. It's really good. It feels so real. It feels like, I mean, the acting, they're dialed in. So you have Will Poulter as Eric. Again, Will Poulter just got a role as Adam Warlock. He also recently had a role in Hulu's The Bear. Cosmo Jarvis, I don't recognize Cosmo Jarvis from other films, but he does play Elliot Miller, who this movie was made for. We also have Kit Connor, who plays another American Navy SEAL named Tommy. Joseph Quinn, who's also going to be the Human Torch in the next Fantastic Four, plays Sam. You had Michael Gandolfini. He plays a lieutenant. He just had a role in Daredevil on Netflix, and he's really good. Everyone's really good. You have Charles Melton as Jake, Noah Centineo as Brian, Taylor John Smith as Frank, and Finn Bennett as John. A very, like, younger group of dudes, but they all just knocked it out of the park, man. Like, really, really good. So, I mean, that's about all I have to say about A24's Warfare. I don't think I have any more notes on this. A surveillance mission that goes terribly, terribly wrong, and a movie where I'm like, you know, seeing it once is probably enough for me. It's as good a movie as it is. I don't want to have to watch some of those scenes again. That's how hard they were to watch. So, A24's Warfare. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Do you plan on seeing Warfare? What is a movie you would compare Warfare to? And do you think we will get another movie that even comes close to the concept of Warfare, using nothing but soldiers' memories to recreate each and every scene, giving you this very vicarious, super fly on the wall experience? Realness to the point of uncomfortableness. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe. Shout out to all of my new and old subscribers, and leave a comment about what kind of movie you want to see me review next, and I'll get on that. This is Reviews by Hunter, and I'm out of here.